for your patience as we begin this morning. We are streaming from the safety and comfort of our homes, and we hope that you all are doing well this morning. It's kind of nice to be able to see you in the chat. Hi Phil, hi Colette, hi everybody. All right, let me begin with our announcements. My name is Mickey Emsch. I am the music director here at First Unitarian Church of Toledo. And just a couple of announcements this morning. We do have some current COVID-19 numbers, and since a fair amount of our worship team has been either around questionable colds or exposed, we're exercising certain caution and having only remote service today. Neither of us, to the best of our knowledge, has had direct contact, and we're planning to return to in-person next week. So keep on the YouTube channel and know that this is now a week-to-week situation because of the Omicron variant. Again, good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Toledo. While all of our tech crew members have been given the week off, we want to report that our little TV studio, as I've heard it called, is about complete. I counted something around 13 screens in use now for the tech folks and a big screen TV in the sanctuary. It seems complex, but the system is pretty quick to learn, and with good guidance from Walter McGee, who we might technically say is our Oscar-winning tech leader, and you can ask him his Academy Award story. We welcome more visitors, and if you'd like to be added to the list, contact Tom Sheehan or Reverend Tim. It really is quick and fun and easy to learn. If I can do it from my home on quick notice, you can do it with guidance from such a wonderful team. We had a couple of special collections during services recently. Today we can report that $602 were collected for the Minister's Discretionary Fund. We don't yet have a total collected for the Buddhist Temple of Toledo's collection. We don't have the final number. We appreciate your attention to special offerings. They're always board approved, and they demonstrate the character and concerns of our church. Look for another special collection on February 13th, when we'll give to the Unitarian Universalist Side with Love program. Also, I think it goes without saying, because the church is closed today, but we will not have bells. Stay tuned for your February newsletter. We're going to let everybody wash their hands, stay nice and safe and healthy, and hope to come back to our in-person shortly. And thank you for the note. I think my audio is better. All right. I have these opening words. This is by Rebecca Ann Parker, adapted. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart. The gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts?
As we light our chalice, which I think I have moved into screen view now, as the chalice holds the flame in this house of meaning, so we hold one another, giving light around, free to dance in many shapes. Within our bodies burns the fire of creation, sparking one another to holiness. Light and warmth, head and heart, are one in the beauty of the flame. Within the chalice of our church, we are flames of faith. And also, if you will join me in reciting our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And we have our opening hymn, which is number 300, With Heart and Mind.
And due to our technical shift to OBS, we'll actually be hearing a different one. I apologize for the shift. This is because our PowerPoint does not like to comply. So we're going to do it filled with loving kindness.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
We now come to our time for story. This is called The Cure by Christopher Hoyce. Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Maggie who found out she had a very terrible disease and would probably never be well again. She was very, very sad. And although she had many friends, all of them were afraid to visit her because they feared they might catch the disease. So the little girl sat in her bed all by herself and was very lonely. One day, she heard a knock at the door. "Come in," she said, and in walked 3 of her friends. One was a doctor, one was a minister, and one was a magician. Maggie was very glad to see them, for no one else had been brave enough to visit her. "Hello, Maggie," said her friends, as they sat down around her bed. "We came to tell you something." each of us, is going to try to find a cure for your disease. Yes, said the doctor, I'm going to go into my laboratory and do experiments until I discover a medicine that will cure you. And I, said the minister, am going to pray every day that you will be healed of this terrible disease. And I, said the magician, am going to look through my book of magic until I discover a potion or spell that will rid you of your disease. Maggie smiled and was happy because she saw how much her friends cared for her. Thanks, she said. We're sorry that we can't stay long to visit, said her friends, but we must rush off and begin to search for a cure. We'll return in 3 days, and surely by then one of us will find a way to cure your disease. And so her friends went away in search of a cure, and once again Maggie was very lonely. For 3 days, Maggie's friends did everything they could to find a cure for the disease. The doctor worked hard in the laboratory, but couldn't discover any medicine that could help the little girl. The minister prayed every day and every night that Maggie would be healed of her disease, but the little girl was still sick. The magician looked through all the magic books, but there was no spells or potion that could cure Maggie's disease. All 3 of Maggie's friends were very sad, for they felt that they had failed. After the 3 days were over, the doctor, the minister, and the magician returned to Maggie's house and told her the bad news. We're sorry, they said, but we couldn't find a cure. We did our best. And the 3 friends began to cry. Don't cry, said Maggie. Before I was sick, I had many friends, but now they're all afraid to visit me. This disease I have is a terrible one, but it's nothing compared to the loneliness I've felt these last few days. I know now loneliness is the worst disease of all. Right now, the medicine I need most is your friendship. The prayer I need most is for you simply be with me. And the magic I need most is your love. And so the doctor, the minister, and the magician gathered around the little girl and laid their hands upon her. In the silence that followed, it is said that they found the cure. We'll now have some centering music.
Please join me now for a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. These words are by Gordon B. McKeown. Ministry is all that we do together. Ministry is that quality of being in community that affirms human dignity, beckons forth hidden possibilities, invites us into deeper, more constant, reverent relationships, and carries forward our heritage of hope and liberation. Ministry is what we do together as we celebrate triumphs of our human spirit, miracles of birth and life, wonders of devotion and sacrifice. Ministry is what we do together with one another in terror and torment, in grief, in misery and pain, enabling us in the presence of death to say yes to life. We who minister speak and live the best we know with full knowledge that it is never quite enough, and yet are reassured by lostness found, fragments reunited, wounds healed, and joy shared. Ministry is what we all do together. Let's observe 1 minute of silence.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in thy heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the land, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
I have this reading today. It is Prayer for the Lampkeeper by Joseph M. Cherry. My prayer for you today is that you understand that you cannot be and say everything, that you are a light, a lamp in the night to help people find their way, but you cannot be their way. Remember also that a steady lamp by which others may guide their own journey is a gift from and to the universe. Be steady, but do not deny your own humanity. Do not forget to take breaks. Do not let your own desire to be that steward of that lamp keep you too long from your own journey. Share the burden. Share in responsibility. Share the honor with others.
I've spoken about shared ministry before, and I bring it as today's topic because it's important for us as a congregation to remember that's what we do. We've been isolated from one another because of the pandemic, and that's going to continue. We don't know if it's for a short time or longer, but we will come back together as an in-person congregation. Not just in person for Sunday services, but getting back to the way meetings and parties and concerts and education opportunities, and through all of that, continuing exploration of our individual and collective spirituality and religion. And yes, it will, in part, be a new way rather than a return to normal. You might recall that shared ministry comes from a statement by Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams, taking the scriptural priesthood of all believers to another level, writing about the prophethood of all believers. And since his time, priesthood and prophethood have been merged and extended into shared ministry, with the recognition that, in a way special to Unitarian Universalism, because of our liberal theology and commitment to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, along with other principles, all Unitarian Universalists are ministers. Others might still claim the concept of priesthood for all, but I think without the dedication we give to shared ministry. I'll expand on our Unitarian Universalist shared ministry in a minute, but first I want to quote what James Luther Adams wrote. A church that does not concern itself with the struggle in human history for human decency and justice good of all believers. The prophetic liberal church is not a church in which the prophetic function is assigned merely to the few. The prophetic liberal church is the church in which persons think and work together to interpret the signs of the times in the light of their faith, to make explicit through discussion the ethical thinking that the times demand. The prophetic liberal church is the church in which all members share the common responsibility to attempt to foresee the consequences of human behavior, both individual and institutional, with the intention of making history in place of merely being pushed around by it. Only through the prophetism of all believers can we together foresee doom and mend our common ways. End quote. And remember, as he's speaking of the liberal church, we give a liberal interpretation to the meaning of believers as well. We are open to all. Yes, we have ordained and fellowship ministers like me, commissioned lay ministers like David Strickler, and student ministers on the path to ordination like Melissa Jeter. But we also have all of you as ministers, not so formally recognized or trained, but important in our advancing our religious ways and cause. You might remember that in our time between called and settled ministers in 2015 and 2016, while I was an affiliated minister here but not on staff, I worked with the congregation so that you might better recognize your own ministry, that the Toledo Unitarians would not always be dependent on a called and settled minister. Though it's usually preferred that there be one, it's a reality that that minister can't do it all. And that you can look more to the board and other member-based leadership, as well as just to one another in the congregation, to have ministry abundant in this church. Some of our Northwest Ohio Unitarian Universalist congregations don't have a minister. They're smaller than we are, but they also have different character than the Toledo Unitarians. Look at Bowling Green, which chose not to replace Reverend Lynn Kerr when she resigned. She and her husband are now in Flint, Michigan, and Jerry Kerr was ordained by the Flint congregation. Findlay has no permanent minister, and I have continued an informal arrangement as their contributing minister if the services of an ordained minister are needed. Lima is similar in having no minister. When I accepted Toledo's call, that contributing minister arrangement ended, which leaves Lyon as the only other Unitarian Universalist congregation with a minister. And First Unitarian Church of Toledo seems to be doing well with a called, settled, full-time minister, me, and shared ministry for the synergy of all that a congregation needs to thrive. There's a lot of shared ministry, the congregation making the church work themselves. In Toledo, in our congregation, a few years ago, we gave greater foundation to the concept by forming in our congregation a committee on shared ministry. That action recognizes the emphasis of James Luther Adams. Our committee on shared ministry in the church bylaws has the charge of examining the ministries of the church, not just those with the label of minister, but the different committees like social justice and membership, the different programs, including music and religious education, and yes, the work that I do as minister. The Committee on Shared Ministry is also the point of contact if there is a dispute within the church, including if you have a complaint about the minister or the work of our church. In our way of encouraging openness and conversation, though, the committee would like you to have brought up your issues with the person or committee or me before involving the committee. We need new people to serve on the Committee on Shared Ministry, by the way. It's one of the committees specifically set up in our bylaws, so it's important, and I hope some of you will consider. Please contact Phil Teitelbaum, the acting chair of the committee, though his term is past. That's how much we need new committee members for me. Be conscious of your own ministry, of our shared ministry. Consider serving on the board, on our groups and circles and committees, and of using skills or developing new ones as a volunteer. For example, in our music program, religious education, or tech. We want you in the community changing the world, but we also need you here at our church home, helping First Unitarian to thrive. I also want to say, on this weekend that celebrates the life and work of Martin Luther King Jr., that when you look at his ministry and the civil rights movement, you see shared ministry. It wasn't solely Dr. King leading the people. Yes, he was a person very much in front as a leader, but there were many others, such as John Lewis. May the voting rights bill named after him be passed by the Senate after all, nearly 75 years after Selma. In an earlier sermon, I said, ministry is not something you put on. It's yourself supported by the intensive study of the different elements of religious tradition and of interpersonal relations that helps you to have the tools and develop the skills of ministry and of getting to know yourself well. As ministers, and we're all ministers, remember, in Unitarian Universalism, we can try to change the world, and it starts here with ourselves and in our congregation. So be it.
And now we come to our time of offering. We are so grateful for all of the time, talents, and energy that you contribute to our Unitarian Church. We hope that you'll think a little bit about some of the committees that are mentioned. Maybe you can type it in the comments or just think to yourself, if I were to join or help in one way this year, what would it be? Kind of take a moment, think it. It can be a quiet prayer to yourself. And if you are so moved today to contribute financially, please find us on uutoledo.org. I would share it, but we will have it in the comments below. And you can always reach out to us via snail mail at 3205 Glendale Avenue. Your contributions are deeply, deeply appreciated in the life of this church.
Now coming soon.
Yes.
Spiritual Adventures Forum next Sunday at 9:45 on Zoom is Connecting People and Places, nonprofit, presented by Michelle Radkin. And then the 11 a.m. service, which we plan to have in person in the sanctuary and on this Toledo Unitarians YouTube channel, is another entry in my continuing series on Jesus as viewed through a humanist lens. And this will be Jesus to Christ, examining Messiahhood.
Please join us as you're able immediately after today's online service for Zoom Coffee Hour. We really hope to see you there. That meeting code and passcode will be on your screen at the end, and I'll make sure to pop it in the comments. I have these closing words today by Darcy Roque, adapted. Each of us ministers to a weary world. There is too much hardship in this world to not find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world not to heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the divine grace of presence every day.
As we send the flame today, let it go from home to home, and like Unitarian Universalist ministry, may it be shared among all of us.